I know it's been a while since I've updated you guys on it, but I've been using my MacBook Pro a lot. Not just for making Tailosive tech videos anymore. I've been working on a lot of content for Tailosive EV and for my new job at Telotruck, some of which gets published, but a lot of which does not get published, and oftentimes I'm editing videos for investors to watch, not the public. So my point is, my MacBook Pro I've just been like abusing lately. I've filled up all 8 terabytes of storage in the past year because I've probably shot more content than I ever have in my entire life, and I've been dumping footage on it. I've actually had to go through and clear some stuff out so I have room left over. And to the people who are saying, Drew, just get a NAS or just use external drives, I can't because I'm like constantly on the go, and it's a huge pain in the butt sometimes when I've literally had to edit videos on planes and on flights, and sometimes you gotta stuff your bags or your luggage in the overhead compartment or under the seat in front of you, and it becomes this big ordeal if it's like, oh wait, I put the B-roll on this drive, let me grab that one. And again, there's just a lot of times I'm not at home, or I'm editing away from home, in the car, at a charger, or in the field as we're shooting, and you just don't always have good internet out there. And because of that, it's just not really a practical option for me to offload a lot of these files and a lot of this footage onto external NANds and try to access them remotely. So I'm actually incredibly grateful that I spec'd up for the 8 terabyte MacBook Pro, but it's coming up on 4 years old, which in the grand scheme of things is really not that bad, but I guess as a tech YouTuber, people expect you to buy the latest and greatest thing all the time, so maybe compared to other YouTubers, a 4-year-old MacBook is starting to sound kind of like dated. But I thought I would keep you guys in the loop as to when I'm planning on upgrading and what features I'm specifically looking for in my next MacBook Pro. And I have to admit, what's on the top of my list, more so than battery life, more so than performance, which I'm sure we're gonna get better at with the years to come, it actually comes down to typical display brightness. Yes, I've used third-party apps like Vivid and done my best to get the mini LEDs on my MacBook to really boost their brightness, but the truth is I've just been running into more and more situations lately where I'm editing outside or I'm editing in the car, and I'm really having a hard time seeing what I'm actually editing because I'm in direct sunlight, and I try to like block out the windows so that it's darker and I can see a little bit better, but still there's only so much you can actually block out, and sometimes you're just editing stuff outside when you're shooting out in the real world. And I know that there's a lot of talk about Apple switching to OLED on their MacBook Pros, and I think it's that feature specifically that I'm probably gonna hold out for. I'm not that interested in the M4 Pro or M4 Max MacBook Pros, and then even when the inevitable M5 Pro and M5 Max MacBooks launch, probably later this year, I feel like they've been pretty consistent with the end of year MacBook Pro refreshes. If it has the same old mini LED display that is on my current MacBook Pro, I'm not interested in upgrading, because at this point there's been so much editing on the go and editing outside that I need as much brightness as I can possibly get. So Vivid basically gets you like a little over 1,000 nits or around there of typical brightness, and I think I want more like 2,000. Basically as much brightness as I can possibly get. And I understand even the OLED displays on the iPad Pros probably aren't getting that bright most of the time, but I don't care if I have to go through some kind of like third-party software to artificially boost it to get some kind of HDR peak brightness mode. I will do that if it means that I can see at least a lot better in broad daylight. That's the biggest issue I've had with my MacBook Pro over the past 4 years, but I have to admit that's pretty much it. Other than that, it has been a flawless piece of machinery. I absolutely love the speakers on board it. It's incredible that I've reached a point where I don't even need a dedicated pair of speakers on my desk anymore. No matter where I'm editing, I can just play out of the onboard speakers, and it sounds so rich and so good that I don't feel the need to use headphones. I don't feel the need to get a dedicated pair of speakers for the desktop. I just plug it into my external monitor and boom, I'm good to go. And I've also been very impressed with the battery life. I've been able to edit multiple videos on a single charge that normally would have killed my last MacBook Pro after like one export. Those Intel CPUs really chewed through power, and you know, now like with as much content as I'm editing, it is fairly easy for me to kill my MacBook on a single charge. It's not one of those situations where it's just like, oh, I can never kill the battery, it lasts all day. Maybe when I first got this MacBook, but now that I'm editing a lot more content than I used to and doing a lot more video calls directly off of it, like, yeah, I need to pack my charger everywhere I go. It's not the kind of Mac where I could leave my charger at home anymore and just assume assume, oh, it'll last me through the day. I'm sure I could kill it every day of the week if I didn't bring my charger around, but the fact that I can charge it from either side is really important, and I would love it if there were more USB-C ports so I could plug in more accessories on the left or the right instead of just having one option for the right. But yeah, overall, it's just held up great. I haven't had anything really wear down on it, except I would say the battery capacity. Maybe that's part of the reason I'm having more issues with battery life as time has gone on, but you know, dipping down to around 82% battery health wouldn't be a big surprise for a lot of tech out there if we're just like, oh, well, it's about 4 years old, so yeah, you would expect battery health to go down a bit. But the difference is, a lot of my MacBook's life, it's plugged in, and it should be using power from the wall and not touching the battery. It's kind of concerning to me that the cycle count is so low. We're talking like under 300 cycles, and yet the battery health is around 82%, which is not great. I have a feeling this has something to do with the fact that it doesn't maintain the battery all that well. And there were definitely early days where people were like, Drew, you don't need to use al dente to cap the battery at 80%. Just plug it in and macOS will do all the work for you. It'll take care of the battery. But, well, it didn't, because there's still a ton of situations where it charges up the battery to full and then it leaves it at full and it doesn't let it go down. And because of that, I think it probably accelerated the deterioration of the battery. And again, this isn't really something that needs to be prioritized in my next MacBook. I think this is just a software issue, but I might be a bit more cautious from day one next time and actually make sure that the charge limit on al dente is set fairly low, because while the MacBook is getting older and I'm sure that contributes to deterioration, overall I don't think I should have lost 20% of my battery capacity with just a couple hundred cycles. Maybe if I was more like 800 cycles or 1,000 cycles, that's when I could understand having 80 to 75% battery health, but not with just a couple hundred. And it hasn't really been super noticeable. There's certainly times where I'm away from a charger, and again, I can still get a couple videos done on a single charge, but I'm sure it would be much, much worse if I was using Adobe products. I'm still using Final Cut, and overall, I'm still very impressed with how it is held up, how everything is still working, and I haven't noticed any issues with the display, even with me using Vivid all the time, and even with me opening and closing it constantly, throwing it in a bag. I'm not really babying it anymore. At the beginning, I was kind of like, ooh, my special, very, very delicate MacBook. Let me put you in a special sleeve to protect you from the edges of my backpack. Now I'm just like, throw it in the briefcase. We're running late. Let's head out of here. And I'll like leave it in a car in a parking lot when I'm traveling and it gets super cold overnight, and I'll take it out of my bag and it's like very cold to the touch. Maybe that's why the battery's deteriorating. It's experienced so much heat and so much cold over the past few years, but I appreciate Apple for building what, in my opinion, is the best laptop on the market, just all around. Like, great microphone quality. I can use the onboard mics for live streaming and recording stuff, and it's super quiet even when doing live streaming and Final Cut video editing. The display quality is still fantastic. I'm just asking for it to be about twice or 3 times as bright, which I know is no easy feat for the engineers, but I'm holding out hope for the OLED MacBook Pros to be noticeably brighter so that I can use it more in direct daylight, and I hope that also comes with a battery boost of some kind. I'm a little bit nervous when I hear reports that they want to switch to OLED, but they also want to make it thinner. No, Apple. You don't need to make it thinner. Keep the battery the same size it is, but just hopefully through more efficient silicon, maybe moving towards 2nm chip designs, we can get like a 30-hour battery instead of what I've got right now, which is, 24 hours when brand new, and after some degradation, we're talking more like, 20 or 19 hours of battery life, which is still quite good, but I'm using this thing as a tool, and of course, the faster the export times, the faster I can get content out there. But you'll notice that's not really a huge priority for me, and that's mainly because this thing exports content so fast already. Like, usually a 5 to 10 minute video takes anywhere between 2 to 6 minutes to export. So if I'm editing and exporting 3 to 4 videos a day, that means that even if you found a way to export videos instantly, like the second I go Command E, boom, the file has been created, the most amount of time I can save is about 20 to 30 minutes a day, which is not nothing, but also not going to be a huge game changer. So it's possible that now that they're making Mac Studios that have 16 terabytes of storage, maybe, just maybe, I might be interested in a MacBook that has that much local storage. I know, I sound crazy. 16 terabytes in my bag, but that's seriously how much content I'm storing, and it becomes super helpful when you're editing lots of videos and you need to edit them quickly, and you need to have readily access available to B-roll at any given time. So I store all of this B-roll that I've recorded from years and years of reviewing laptops, reviewing Pixels and iPhones and Apple Watches, but I also have all of this stored B-roll of cars for my EV channel. I have Ford vehicles, VW vehicles, Teslas, Rivians, Lucids, and of course Aptera and the Tello truck, and even B-roll of the Fisker Ocean, which does occasionally come up and I need to reference. And it's very helpful for having an efficient, effective editing workflow, but the only downside is, yes, it does mean you need a lot of local storage. So I don't think I could edit as efficiently or as quickly if I kept everything on external drives and just tried to pull it from the cloud whenever needed, because I am very rarely now actually editing from home. It's weird. There's just so much more traveling going on, working in varying places, and I don't want to give up on this channel. I don't want to give up on you guys, but I would kind of have to if I tried to make like a stationary home setup where I have, you know, a Mac Studio and a big Pro Display XDR, and I stored everything locally at home, and I was like, okay, here's my dream desk, everyone. Here's where I get all my work done, but then I'm just gone all the time, or I'm gone for weeks or months doing events or visiting friends and family in various places. So I've kind of just decided, as much as I love the M4 Mac Mini, and I would really love to try one of those out, I'm just running all over the place way too much for me to build a stationary desktop setup. So my next Big Mac purchase will have to be from McDonald's. Sorry, I just can't help it. It's such an old joke, but it's so good. But no, my next Big Mac purchase will have to be a MacBook Pro, and it will have to be the large size. I have no interest in downsizing. I do not find my MacBook Pro heavy or too thick at all. I can easily pick it up with one hand, throw it in a bag, and feel like it's not even there. I don't understand the obsession with getting just a couple pounds out of your MacBook. Like, this thing is not even 5 pounds. Then people will go buy, you know, a MacBook Air that's 3 pounds and be like, wow, it's so much lighter. Nothing is as light as the original 12-inch MacBook, and I still wish Apple would just revive that for people who really want a super thin, lightweight design. But for me, I actually would be fine if they went bigger. I wouldn't mind a 17 or 18-inch MacBook Pro, just as long as it meant that the chip was really fast but could also be efficient, and it meant that the battery would last as long as possible and still let me take it on a flight, of course. And again, the brighter OLED display is the big deal. I don't really care too much about the contrast ratio or how many true-to-life colors it can do. I just want the whole display to get brighter, not just the HDR content. I hate that crap. It throws off your eyes, and it doesn't really feel like you're getting much more data out of the video. It just makes the rest of the display look really dim. I just want the typical brightness boost. I've given up on the touch bar. That's okay, we can leave that behind. But if Apple were to make an Ultra MacBook of some kind, or a MacBook Max, and they were willing to put the same kind of chip they put in the Mac Studios in there, that would be pretty tempting to me, because I need a mobile workstation, but I want the screen as big and as bright as possible. What are you guys going to prioritize for your next Big Mac purchase? We talking lettuce, mega pickles? How thick do you want the beef patty to be? All that stuff. Let me know what you're thinking down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you all in the next one.